Listeners, are you ready for your monthly literary adventure? We now have the BFF Book Club. Join us each month to explore a new book. After reading, connect with fellow book lovers and meet the author in a live interview. Can't make it live? Don't worry. We'll send you the recording. You can find all the upcoming book club selections at www.bookishflights.com/read/BFF Book Club. Hi, I'm Kara Infante, and this is Bookish Flights. In each episode, I chat with one bookish guest as we take some time to sample and savor the pairing recommendations from their bookish flight. We hope to give you suggestions to cultivate your TBR list and nurture your leisure time through books. In today's episode, I am chatting with Lindsay Flanagan. Lindsay writes fantasy adventures that empower girls to embrace their unique traits and weave their own spells into the world. Her debut novel, AnnaGrey and the Constellation, is the first runner-up in the middle reader category of the Eric Hoffer Book Award and a First Horizon Medal finalist. Her newest novel, Little Red Wraith, is her debut young adult book. She is also an award-winning editor and has edited fiction and nonfiction for traditional publishers, private clients, and is currently a senior editor at Eschler Editing. Additionally, she took on the role as co-publisher of Madcap Books, the young adult imprint at Roan and Weatherford Publishing. Welcome to the show, Lindsay.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Yes, I am excited to have you on the show today. I feel like you are so much more than this bio, though. So can you tell us a little bit about who you are?
Yeah, I'm in addition to all of that, I'm a mom. I have two daughters and three dogs. So life can be a little bit chaotic. Um, before I was an editor and a publisher, I spent 10 years in higher education, and then I just kind of took a leap of faith after our second daughter was born and just decided to do my master's in creative writing, and that was 10 years ago now, and it's been a dream, really. It's just been, it was one of those moments where you're like, I really like what I'm doing, but it's not what I'm passionate about.
Yeah.
And so that's why I kind of said, all right, I'm done and we're gonna do this. And it's a little bit scary because I was the breadwinner at the time, and my husband, he's an airline pilot, and he was just getting started, and we had a newborn and a 5-year-old, and it worked out.
Yeah, is this the time to be making this big leap, right? Yeah. So when you were doing higher education, were you doing anything with creative writing or English or anything in this realm, or was this completely different what you were doing?
It was completely different. I was actually in financial aid and scholarships.
Oh, wow.
I
Okay.
loved helping kids go to school. And I did a lot of technical writing, like the website and the policies and procedures manual and things like that. But yeah, it's very different, very different.
Yeah. I was just wondering if there was like a similar vein, but I mean, sometimes I think those huge leaps of faith that you make, right, give us the most reward, right? The things that we're most afraid of are like turn out to be the sweetest in the end.
Yes, yes, absolutely.
So did you, when you made this, you went back to school and did you start as an editor or did you start as a writer, or what's been your trajectory in these last 10 years?
So I've actually been writing for as long as I can remember.
Okay.
The first story I remember writing was about a girl and her horse, which is kind of fun because if you've seen the cover of my middle grade book, it's a girl and she's got a magical horse. My story, I think 7. It was called Black Beauty, so not real original. Um, but I just wrote, and it was my creative outlet. It was, in high school, it was my teenage angst journal with poetry, and then I got my bachelor's degree in English and literature. So then I was very serious into like the literary classics and writing essays. And then I was like, oh, I'm going to write a book because that's what you do. And yeah, I started my first book, I believe, in 2005 or 2006. It's been a long time. Um, and of course, it didn't go anywhere. And I just kept trying and trying and trying and going to writing conferences and just trying to learn more about the craft.
Yeah.
And then I was like, well, I'll just go back to school and get my master's in creative writing. So I did that. And then I needed an internship. And because I had a newborn and a 5-year-old, I was hoping to find one that I could do from home because my husband's gone all the time. So it was
Yeah.
hard to like get babysitters and I had met this a woman at a book conference, and her name was Angela Eschler, and she was so kind and was just like, hey, if you ever need anything, let me know. And so 3 years later, I'm like, hey, you own an editing company, and I need an internship. And she was like, sure, I'll take you on. So 10 years later, I'm still with them, and
Wow.
I'm a senior editor, project manager, and I'm helping put writing courses and editing courses together. So it's been a really, I was very lucky. I know how lucky I am, but it was
Yeah.
right place, right time, and just another like confirmation that making that leap was the right thing to do.
Yeah. I mean, that door wouldn't have been opened if it was the wrong way, right? You're like, yeah, this
Exactly.
just happened to be here. So,
Yeah.
for when you're an editor, do you specialize in genres that you edit? How does that work?
I do. And I actually specialize in a type of editing. So I think that a lot of people think editing is grammar, punctuation, and spelling, which it
Sure.
is. And that's copy editing. And I actually don't do that. I can do it, but I don't love it. I like the more creative editing. So I specialize in developmental and substantive editing. So I'm looking at story and characters and pacing and plot and prose and the way the author is using language to tell that story. And so I'm more of a creative partner in that I'm digging into, well, the story. Um, if you need a comma here, I'll fix it. But
Yeah.
that's my love. And I actually I didn't really know what developmental editing was until I did my internship. Like I'd heard of it, but I was just like, I don't know what that is. So when I was doing the internship, I did several tests and several exercises to see what I liked, and I was like, I actually like this. This is really good. Um, so that's kind of how I fell into developmental and substantive editing. And substantive is um, more of the prose, but it's also page by page and line by line feedback too.
Okay.
And developmental is kind of more big picture.
Yeah.
Is story working? Are my characters likable? Is it believable? And as far as nonfiction, I don't do a lot of nonfiction, but I will in certain circumstances, especially if it has to do with being a woman or motherhood, because those are topics that I can really relate to.
Sure.
Oh, I edited a book called Embrace the Beautiful Chaos of Motherhood. It was so fun because the author and I were kind of in that same stage of our kids were around the same age. And so we were going through a lot of the same things. So we really were able to collaborate. Um, and then another one that I edited, it's not out yet, so I can't actually say too much about it, but it's
Sure.
absolutely inspirational, beautiful story about a woman who has just gone through trial after trial after trial, and she's just still like, hey, this is life, and she's a inspirational coach. So
Yeah.
yeah, so that's what I love to do. And as far as fiction genres, I really like young adult and middle grade because that's what I write. I like romance. I'm really starting to get into, and as we'll talk about in the flights, I'm really starting to get into books that are set in the American West. And I don't do a lot of thriller. It's not really my thing, but did I say romance? I do like
Yeah.
romance.
Get a good
And
happily ever after in there.
yeah, a lot of fantasy. I really like fantasy. I'll do picture books as well. Um, yeah, it's just so fun.
Yeah. I love that you detailed about the types of editors because I have had some people come on and they kind of drop these terms, but it for someone that's not a writer, right, from the background, and I think we just crack a book and we're just a reader, right? You don't realize all the people that are involved to get that book to where it is. And, and just you saying like this line by line, I mean, that's quite an extensive process, right? And how long does that take you? Can you give us an example of that?
So I kind of gauge it by word count.
Okay.
I look at like 90,000 words would be like a good sized young adult book.
Okay.
100,000 words is probably a good sized adult fantasy. So anywhere between like 70 to 100,000 words. And, 70,000 words I could probably do in 6 weeks, but 100,000 words, we're looking more like 9 to 10 weeks because I don't want to sit down and edit for hours because I just get really,
Yeah.
you just kind of get
You miss
tired.
stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about your book. And you have AnnaGrey and the Constellation as your first novel, and then you have your newest one, Little Red Wraith. So, can you tell
Yeah.
us about them?
Yeah, so Anna Gray and the Constellation is upper middle grade fantasy, and it's about a girl who can see in the dark, and she meets this beautiful magical horse, and she gets taken to her fantasy world. It's a portal fantasy where she learns she has to help save the true heir to the throne. And that book I actually started writing in 2015
Okay.
when my daughter was in kindergarten, my oldest daughter. And she came home from school one day and was just like, Mom, this boy at school called me weird. And I was like, that's not happening. So
Hmm.
I wanted to write something for her to show her that weird is actually awesome because it's unique. And these things are actually your magical powers. And so that's how I got started with that book. And then Little Red Wraith it takes place in the same magical world. So Anna Gray, the book starts out and she's in our world, and then she goes through this portal and then she's in a magical realm. So Little Red Wraith actually takes place all in the magical realm, and it takes
Okay.
place 16 years prior. And it tells the story of Anna Gray's parents and how they ended up into the human world. But it's a little bit darker, and it's she's 16, and so it's a young adult. The Anna Gray book, my Anna Gray is 14, and so that's where it kind of fits in the upper middle grade. So this is the first time I've talked about it on a podcast, and but it's
Yeah.
about a 16-year-old girl who is a shapeshifter, but she comes from shapeshifters, but she's unable to shift, and she her mother is summoned to the castle, and there this 16-year-old girl has to make a choice whether she wants to join the rebellion and as a poisoner, or join the queen, who she doesn't like, and the queen doesn't like her, as and create a potion that would actually change the face of the kingdom. So it was really fun to write because I had all this backstory for Anna Gray
Yeah.
and why her parents were in the human world, but I wanted to actually write it out. And so I wrote it out, and I was thinking that it would actually be like a sequel to Anna Gray and the Constellation, and that it would tell like an Anna Gray story, and then it would have this middle story of her mom, and then end with Anna Gray. But after a lot of feedback from my beta readers and my critique partner and even my agent and my editor, they were like, no, this is its own story. So I was like, oh, shoot, okay. So I rewrote it again, and
Okay.
and I'm very glad. It really is its own story. And I signed publishing contract to do two more books that actually go even further back in time. So that's going to be really fun to go and explore because again, I have all this backstory, but now I get to actually write it out and play with these characters. It's going to be so fun.
Well, and I love that you're actually taking it backwards because I mean again, being no author, but I can't imagine there's many series that are written that are going backward in time, right? It's kind of a cool idea for a series versus going forward. And I know sometimes they'll go forward, right, and they'll make like a prequel. They'll come out with like, book 5 will be the prequel to everything. But I'm like, that's such a cool idea for a series that it's actually going backward down the line.
Thank you. Yeah, and the Anna Gray series is going forward, and it has 3 books too. So Anna Gray and the
Okay.
Red Fox Girls, that should be out next spring, summer, and then hopefully it'll all tie together. And so 6 books in total that take place in this same magical realm that I just created to
Yeah.
inspire my daughters to embrace whatever people think is weird and be like, heck yeah, it is. And
Yeah.
it's cool.
And I love that you're giving that to them because it's so true. I think as parents, once you become a parent, right, you're trying to figure out how to have your kids show up in the world, right, and how to weather these tough exchanges, right, bullying or whatever it may be, or the name calling. And it's always a matter of like, well, how can I help my kids through this, right? And so I love that you're giving it to them in story form because it's such a it can spur for us, right? That you wrote this for your girls, but like my kids can then read it and then we can have these conversations about these potential interactions or when they come up down the line. It gives us an avenue of communication that we wouldn't have had.
Yeah, oh, thank you. Yes, I definitely wanted to write, and boys have read it too, and they've
Yeah.
enjoyed it. But because I'm just a mom of girls, it was, very much for them so that they could go and be like, yeah, girl power. I know that's, we've been doing girl power for a long time, but I don't think that there's ever a reason to stop having girl power.
Yeah. So can the books be like, can you read AnnaGrey and then you can go back and read Little Red Wraith, right? Like they don't have to be read in a certain order.
Right. So I I was hoping that if somebody didn't want to read Little Red Wraiths, say, like my youngest is 10 right
Sure.
now, and I told her it's a little bit darker, but we can read it together if you want. But if she doesn't want to, I wrote Anna Gray and the Constellation, and then I wrote the next book, Anna Gray and the Red Fox Girls, that I give just enough information that if you don't read Little Red Wraith, that you'll be okay. But
Okay.
if you really want to know what happened to her parents and why they are the way they are, then go to Little Red Wraith. Or maybe once all the Anna Gray books come out and you get a little bit older, and my daughter will probably be 12 or 13 by the time they're all out, then she can go and read the young adult
Yeah.
book. So, um, but again, I'm writing for my girls, so there's nothing risque or anything, but it is darker. It's something where this main character has to make this almost awful choice. And not every choice in life is going to be easy. And sometimes you
Yeah.
have to choose good or bad, but sometimes you have to choose bad or worse.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So that's where she comes from.
Okay. All right. Well, that's really a really good breakdown of that. What have you learned about yourself through writing?
Oh, wow, that's a tough question. So, actually, as I've been a writer my whole life, I've known that words were a way I could kind of learn about who I am and make sense of the world around me. But it kind of like in high school when I was writing my teenage angsty poetry, I kind of understood it then, and I go back and I read it, and it's really bad. But I remember the times in my life, and I'm like, oh yeah, I remember that was tough, and I wrote this poem about it, and it made me feel better. Um, so well, it was 5 years ago. My dad passed away from cancer, and I'd lost grandparents, and that was hard, but I hadn't lost someone that close to me before. And I was sitting at my sister's kitchen table, and I just looked at her and I was like, I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to grieve. And she just looked at me and she goes, write about it. That's what you are, a writer. And it hit me, and I was like, oh, yeah, okay. So I wrote a series of blog posts, and it's called A Year of Grief. And it really was a way for me to go, okay, Dad, I miss you, but I'm going to write about this. And I'm going to remember the good times that we had. And I might even touch on the bad times that we had. And so I think what I've learned about myself is that the best way for me to cope with the world is to write. So, yeah.
That's beautiful. Would you have called yourself a writer before your sister said that?
Yes.
Okay.
And um, I think that it was that moment where I was totally a writer when I was in high school, right? And then I was trying to be a writer when I was doing graduate school. And then I was learning about the craft of writing. And then I got my agent and I got my publishing contract. But it was right before I got my agent and publishing contract that my dad died. And so it was kind of like a bridge
Okay.
between me being a writer and then me being an author. You know, now I'm an author. I'm a
Yeah.
published author.
I always find it so interesting, and having interviewed a lot of people now of when we allow ourselves to take the title on. Because
Mhm.
it's like, oh, I wouldn't have thought of that until someone said that to me. And then you're like, oh, wait, maybe I really am. You know, a lot of times it takes someone else, like an exterior force, to be like, you are.
Yes. Yes.
Absolutely. Well, what do you hope that readers will ponder as they're reading your books? Like, are there any themes or topics?
So with Anna Gray and the Constellation, and because it's been out longer and I've talked about it more, it kind of comes easier for me to be like, yes, this is the
Yeah.
lesson. But the theme is basically accepting who you are and running with it and being this person that you're born to be. And yes, you might stumble and you might like question it. Am I really made for this? But yeah, in the end, Anna Gray is made for this. And I'm not giving away too many spoilers because I'd love for everyone to go and read it or listen to it. It actually just came out from Tantor on audiobook a couple
Awesome.
weeks
Okay.
and the performance is just amazing. I cried at the end of my own book.
Oh, that's amazing.
I had a wonderful narrator. Her name's Tina Wollstonecroft, and I always say it wrong and I stumble, but Wollstonecroft, Tina
Okay.
Wollstonecroft. And I just absolutely fell in love with her voice. And then I listened to her read my story, and I was just captivated by my own characters.
Amazing.
It was beautiful, but there were moments where I was like, I remember writing that line. I remember being in that moment where I was trying to get some sort of message out to my daughter to be like, you should just be who you are. And Anna Gray's best friend tells her that you should just be who you are and run with it. And then toward the end of the book, Anna Gray actually says that to her beautiful magical horse. And she says, who's actually an Aobanic. It's a creature I created myself. But
Okay.
um, she says, you should just be who you are and run with it because when you run, you leave a trail of stars. And I just remembered writing that and being like, my daughters can leave trails of stars. And whether it's actual stars, we don't know, we might be magical,
Yeah.
or, you know, a light to other people. That's really what I wanted them to learn from Anna Gray. And I think after I listened to it in audiobook in someone else's voice and listened to that performance, I think I did it, and I was really proud of myself.
Yeah.
Uh,
That's a
with
cool experience, though, to have your own, like, listen to the performance of your work.
yes, yes, and I mean, she does the male voices. There are some adorable boys in there, and she does them so well and so cute. Like there's a character called Blue Jay, and he's like this cocky bad boy, you know, and the way she does the voice, and I was like, dang, I'd have a crush on him. So it was wonderful, so wonderful. Highly recommend, you know, getting someone to narrate your own books. So it was just an amazing experience. But
Yeah.
with Little Red Wraith, I'm still kind of in that, oh my gosh, it's finally out to the world, and I'm excited for people to tell me what they think about it. Um, but I think the theme for everything that I do write is about girls, women embracing who they are and being strong, even if it's in this one, she's kind of morally gray. She's kind of caught between should I do this bad thing or should I do this bad thing? Um and she ends up having to make some sort of really awful sacrifice.
Yeah.
But it ends up being a blessing to her. And I think what I learned when writing that is that sometimes we just have to do what we have to do. Sometimes it's not what we want to do, but we have to do it and we have to get through it. And you'll find at the end of it, or you know, once you've gone through it, that you know what, this actually ended up being a blessing, if you want to call it a blessing, or it ended up being good for me. I learned something. And the thing she had to learn was to be like, I'm never going to be like everybody else, but I have this wonderful, I'm not going to give any spoilers, but I have this wonderful thing that I now have to do.
Yeah. And I think that's another important lesson for our kids, right? Is like life is not going to be perfect. It's going to be hard. And we're going to be faced with hard choices. And we're going to basically have to take all the experience we've had before us and then make the, worse or bad decision that, or, worse or bad choice that we have to make. And like, you're just a result of your circumstances. And then you take that on and you keep going forward. But it's not going to be easy. And it's not going to be butterflies and roses and all of that out here.
Right, right. So where my middle grade series is very like sparkly and rainbowy because it's got a magical horse.
Yeah.
The prequel books are a little bit darker, and I think like going because they're young adult, I think the teenage years were a lot. I don't know. For me, they were a lot harder. And my daughter is 15 now, and she's kind of going through some of that, like friends and boys and crushes, and it's hard.
Yeah.
It's very hard. And she's like, I don't know what I want to be when I grow up. And I'm like, oh, but you're still a kid. But then I'm like, oh my gosh, you only have 3 years till you graduate high school, and it's all of that juggling. Who am I going to be?
Yeah. And being confident in who you are, right? In the choice that you make and who you are. Because I feel like at that age, you're so susceptible to peer pressure that it's really hard to be that.
Yes, absolutely. It's such a tough time. But I look at her and I'm like, you're so much smarter and more confident and beautiful and just everything that I never was.
Yeah.
But of course, she doesn't see herself that way, but I
Yeah.
do.
Which is what we want for our kids. So, well, let's switch gears a little bit and let's talk about who you are as a reader. Tell us what genres you enjoy reading.
I love reading what I edit and what I write. So young adults, middle grade. I do like adult fantasy as well, like romance. So it's really just I don't try to keep myself in that bubble, but I do find that that's what I really like. I like some historical fiction. I like alternate history. I think that's really fun. And I like unexplored history. So Stacey Lee has become one of my very favorite authors because she's telling all these stories about Chinese Americans, and it's something I haven't read before, and I'm like, oh, this is such a different experience. And it's she's such a good writer. Oh my gosh, I just get sucked into her books. I read the first one I read by her was Luck of the Titanic. I just
Okay.
sat there and cried. I just cried. So it was so good.
How in the world do you fit in leisure reading? I mean, like you're a writer, your day job is with books. So how do you fit in your leisure time for reading?
Anyway, I do a lot of audiobooks because I'm able to get ready in the morning or, after I drop my kids off school, when I'm off at school, when I'm driving back home, or when I'm folding laundry or making dinner. Audiobooks, I love them.
Yeah.
But I still love sitting down with a book and just holding it and reading it. Um, I don't get a lot of time for that. So I try to do like 10 print books a year,
Okay.
but many audiobooks as I can fit in. So yeah,
Yeah.
that's
I just,
maybe
as you've been talking, I'm like, how in the world does she fit this in? So, well, you have been so gracious to bring a book flight with you today. Tell us how you chose these books.
so I so I have worked in publishing for 10 years now, and I've been lucky enough that I've kind of been able to dip my toes in a lot of different things. And one of the things I was able to dip my toes in was agenting. And I'm not an agent, and I don't think I'll ever be an agent because, wow, their work is so hard. Um, but I was able to read a lot of query letters and a lot of manuscripts. And again, I can't say too much, but I absolutely fell in love with this one manuscript, and it was set in the American West.
Okay.
And like, oh my gosh. And it was a female protagonist, and she was, probably 17 or 18, and she was really, really bad A. And I fell in love with her, and I was like, I want to read more books like this. And so I then was at a bookstore doing a book signing, and I came across Red Rabbit by Alex Grecian. I think that's how you say his last name, and I'm so sorry if I'm slaughtering it. And I loved the cover. I mean, covers do draw you in, you
Oh,
know.
for sure.
And I was like, ooh, it's got a stagecoach. I bet it's the American West. And I was so excited because I wanted to start reading books, not necessarily Westerns, but I wanted to read books set in the West. So I picked it up and found out that it was a Western, American West horror. I was like, oh, I don't read a lot of horror. All right, why not?
Yeah.
So I got it. I could not stop reading it. It was so good, so good. And there was dark magic in it, and I fell in love with it. It was actually the first book of 2024 that I read, and I got to hold that one. That was one that I actually held to read. Um,
Sounds like it was the perfect one for that,
yes,
with how
yes,
much you loved it.
yes, absolutely. So I've kind of been on the lookout for others, and I mentioned Stacey Lee, and I didn't really know when I picked up Under a Painted Sky, and I actually did that one on audiobook. I didn't know it was set in the American West until I started listening to it.
Okay.
And I was so excited because it starts out in Missouri, and it's this teenage Chinese American girl, and I don't want to give any spoilers, but she loses her dad in a fire, and then she almost gets tricked into becoming a prostitute, but there's a girl there, um, a beautiful, brave black girl who saves her, and they dress up as boys and they head out on the trail. And I was like, hell yes, this is
Yeah.
the kind of book I've been looking for. And there's no magic in this one, but her writing is magical. And these girls are so brave, and they're like, they don't know what they're doing. They're trying to like ride horses and be cowboys, and then they meet these two cowboys, and of course, cowboys are adorable, and so there's a little bit of romance in it. And they actually, I think it's been a while. It's been like 6 months since I listened to it, but I believe they go through Wyoming, and I'm from Utah, and I live really close to the Wyoming border. So that was kind of fun
Yeah.
for me to be like, oh, yeah, I know where Fort Bridger is. It's super cool. Um, so that has been one of my favorite books of 2024 as well. And
Okay.
then, the last one in my book flight is, and I hope I don't like slaughter this as well, but it's Elysium Girls. And that is by Kate Pentecost. And that one I actually did on my Kindle.
Okay.
Um, but if you look at that cover, I mean, you can't not read it. It's this girl, and she has like a cowboy hat on, and she's got a braid, and she's on a mechanical horse, and there's fire. And you're just like, well, I have to read it.
I'm like,
So,
and in my mind, I'm like, I have to go look it up now.
yeah.
I'm intrigued.
And yeah, it's that one. It wasn't what I expected. It was actually much more than what I thought it would be.
Yay.
Set in Oklahoma during the Dust Bowl, and I just thought it would be that, but it's actually not. It's kind of bigger than that. It's about these goddesses who are playing a game, life and death, playing a game against each other, and they create this community, and they shut them off from the rest of the world during the Dust Bowl, and they have 10 years to figure out, how to live together. And there
Wow.
was magic in it, and
Okay.
um, it's and then there's a demon in it, and it blew my mind because I was like, wow, this is not at all what I expected it, but it was in a good way. And I try to follow all the authors that I read on Instagram, and I had the biggest fangirl moment when Kate Pentecost followed me back on Instagram. I was like, yay!
I
So
agree with you on that because I always want to see what if they like have another book and when they make their next book announcement, I'm like, yep, gotta read that one.
yeah, yeah. So those were my three books, and I read them all this year, really because I read that one manuscript that I was like, well, I gotta dive more into this. So if anyone wants to like follow me on Insta and then DM me books set in the American West with strong girls and yeah, magic and alternate history, I
Yeah.
would love it.
Yeah. Dig into this book flight and then go follow Lindsay on Instagram and we could have this American West book flight going on here.
Yes.
So I know as you've been talking, I'm like, have I read any books? The most recent one I read was not really necessarily set in the Midwest or the American West. But it was set in San Francisco. The Phoenix Crown. Kate Quinn, and she co-authored it with Janny Chang. And it was, I can't remember how much of it is a true story, but it's set in San Francisco in like, I believe the 1920s-ish. And so you get a really like a sense of place of San Francisco, but a sense of that time period too. So I enjoyed that one. And there's a mystery element woven into that. And it's 3 or 4 women like voices in it, and they kind of interweave the story through their individual stories, but
Oh,
kind
that
of
sounds
American West, kind of.
that sounds really good. I really like Kate Quinn and Pam Jenoff. Those are 2 authors that I got into last year with their World War II and American history. Those, yeah,
Yeah.
I've loved their books too. So,
Yeah, and that one was really fun because I feel like not all of her books obviously are very solidly set in historical fiction, but there was like that mystery component to this one. And so that was unique, I think, for her. And then you're trying to solve like, the whodunit a little bit.
oh yeah,
So that
fun.
was fun. Yeah. So that could be a little dessert pairing if you want another one and you want to try it. That was
You know?
the Phoenix Crown. I'm trying to think because then she had the Briar Club. She had 2 books come out this year, which is impressive. So, but that
Oh,
was the Phoenix Crown. So,
oh, that's awesome.
yeah.
Yeah, so as a publisher for Mad Cat, which I haven't talked about a lot in
Yeah.
this interview, but whenever I'm talking about being a publisher, people are like, "So what kind of books do you want to publish?" I'm like, "Young adult horror set in the American West." I'm like, "I think we got a thing going on here."
You're like, how niche can I be?
Right. Nothing too horror and gory, but a little bit. I like to be scared a little bit.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And listeners, we're recording it like just was around Halloween was just right around the corner. So I feel like this is the time of year when I want a read like that. I'm like, yeah, give me a little spooky, scare me a little bit.
Yes. Well, and if you want a dessert pairing for that, The Horseman by Christina Henry, it's her sequel to The Legend of Sleepy Hollow.
Oh,
It's about
okay.
Mark Bones's daughter, and it's horror, but
Okay.
it's so good. It's probably one of my top 5 reads of all time. So good.
Okay. Well, thank you for that.
There's another bad A female protagonist, and she's on a horse, and so good.
I hear a lot of horses in these themes too. I
I
love
know.
it.
It must be because I grew up riding horses, so they're in my blood, I guess.
Yeah,
So,
it'll pull you in. Well,
uh,
thank you so much for bringing those books with you today. How I love to end our show here is with our bonus pairings. So these are just a speed round of questions you can answer really quick. Are you
okay.
a rereader?
Ooh, sometimes, yeah. Because sometimes I want to go back and I really want to dive into it with my editor brain. Not that I'm going to try to edit it, but try to really dig into the themes
Yeah.
and just like sometimes even drink in the words and be like, oh, I love the way they wrote this part of the book. So, yes,
Okay.
sometimes. Yeah.
Yeah. And then what is one book that has changed your life?
Oh, there are so many. Um, well, this one's kind of fun because it's completely out of the realm of what we've been talking about. But, and people will probably roll their eyes, but Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen. And the reason is because I read it, I watched the BBC miniseries, and then I picked up an abridged version for my daughter when she was 11 or 12, maybe. And she read the abridged version and she was like, oh, I love it. So then we started watching the BBC miniseries together. And now we can talk to each other and talk about Darcy and Elizabeth and Mr. Collins. And to be able to talk to my daughter about a book that I grew up loving it's been so fun because I get to re-experience the book from her point of view in a way
Yeah.
and be like, oh yeah, I like that part. So we also, when we're joking around, I don't, have you seen the BBC miniseries of
I
her?
don't think I have. Like as you were saying that, I'm like, I don't think I've seen it.
Okay, you got to go get it. It's Colin Firth as Mr. Darcy and Jennifer Ely
I
as
think you
a
say Colin Firth. Maybe I have.
yeah.
Okay.
But the actor who plays Mr. Collins, he's a scream, and there's a part where he will shut himself up if if Lady Catherine de Bourgh is talking, and he'll be like, and I know you can't see me because I'm on
Yeah.
podcast, but he like has his hand vertical and he puts it over his lip and his nose, and my daughter and I do that to each other all the time when we're telling each other to be quiet. We're like,
It's like your inside joke.
yeah. So it's just been so fun to re-experience Pride and Prejudice through my kid.
Yeah.
So
And and I feel like as readers, we want our kids to love reading as much as we do. So it's like you have the ultimate vindication of that, of now you're sharing that book together too.
yes, yes. And she's in a young adult lit class right now. And I'm like, ooh, what are you reading? Tell me. And so,
I'm
so
more excited than you are, probably.
yes, I totally am. I'm like, tell me what you're reading. I want to read them. So she recommended House of Salt and Sorrow.
Okay.
Really good. I'm
Okay.
totally blanking on the author right now, but it's kind of a dark reimagining of the 12 Dancing Princesses.
Okay. Okay.
Sorry, I'm blanking out on who the author is because she's wonderful, and it's just because I'm being put on the spot that I can't think of it.
Yeah. We'll have it in the show notes. So don't worry.
All right, awesome.
All right. Well, then next, where is your favorite place to read?
Probably in my chair.
Okay.
Yeah, I have a little chair in my bedroom, and I have an electric blanket, and it's right by my window, so I can look out at the trees and just curl up.
Sounds amazing. Lastly, what are you reading next?
Oh, currently I'm reading A Curse for True Love, which is
Okay.
the third book in, and I'm gonna look at the name of the series, but it's the third book, and it's by Stephanie Garber. People probably know her from Caraval, which is
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
good. Yeah, so it's the third book that I'm reading right now, and then coming up after that is Before the Devil Breaks You by Libba Bray, and
Okay.
that is, I think it's the third or fourth book in the Diviners series.
Okay.
So, and then so see, I always have books on deck, and then in the hole, and in the
Yeah.
hole is let's see, it's called Tantalize by Cynthia Smith, but I can't pronounce her middle name, and I know she uses her middle name, but let me spell it for you. It is Leitich. I think it's Ledick,
Okay.
Cynthia Ledick Smith. I'm a big fan of her. I've read some of her other books, middle grade book, and it's about a little Native American girl, and her best friend dies, and oh, so good. And I have another fangirl moment. Cynthia followed me back on Facebook, so
Yay. The whole reader world, reader, writer, author world coming together.
yes. I hope they're all listening and being like, "Oh, I need to go follow her too." Stephanie, follow me.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's a great question. Where can listeners find you?
Probably the best place is just go to my website, which is authorlindsayflanagan.com.
Okay.
Updated. There are links to my books, and I try to blog a little bit on there and just keep readers updated. I have my editing services on there if anyone's a writer and interested in hiring me, although I am booked out for quite a while. But I'm always happy to just chat with authors to be like, well, this is where you should start, and this is what you need to do. And I also have a ton of editing colleagues who I can refer them to. So
Awesome. Well, we'll include that link in the show notes as well. Thank you so much for coming on the show with me today. I know your time is precious, and I appreciate all you've given me.
thank you so much. I could probably talk for another hour. It's been so much fun.
Oh, I'm so glad. Thank you so much for listening to this episode today with Lindsay Flanagan and her book flight of books featuring alternate history in the American West. We'd love to hear what books you'd pair with this book flight at bookishflights.com. If you enjoyed the show, please head over to Apple Podcasts and leave a review. Your review not only helps the show, but it also helps the podcast to reach others. Make sure you are subscribed on Apple Podcasts or Spotify to make sure you will not miss an episode. That's it for today. Thank you so much for listening. As Emma Thompson said, I think books are like people in the sense that they'll turn up in your life when you most need them. Cheers to you, dear readers. Until next time.